Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Dr. Sean Yoder, and today we're doing EC202 Macroeconomics, and we're doing Chapter 4. Today we're going to take the supply and demand ideas that we talked about last time. We're going to talk about some special cases of them, and then we're going to build the analytic tools we need to metric efficiency, to figure out whether something is more or less efficient. So here we go. Back when we talked about Chapter 2, we had three basic questions every society had to answer. What gets made, how do you make it, and who gets what's made? Now, we argued that price answers all these questions. Price answers that third question, who gets what, through a system called price rationing. And the idea works something like this. If you value and are willing to pay the price of a good, you get it, even if you value it for more. And if you don't value it at that price, you don't. If there's a shortage, price tends to go up in a market system, and it will go up enough so that there's only enough buyers for the number that's for set. Now, please note, we're totally ignoring any equity concerns. Just because price is answering the third question of who gets what, doesn't mean it's fair, doesn't mean you have to like it, doesn't mean it supports economic growth or stability. All we're observing is that price automatically answers the question. Here's an example. We start at point C right here. Here's our demand curve. On the x-axis, millions of metric tons of wheat. And on the y-axis, we have the price of a metric ton of wheat. So in the spring of 2010, we had this supply curve, and we start at point C. At the spring of 2010, the equilibrium price was $160 per metric ton, and 60 million metric tons of wheat were going to go out. Now, in the summer of 2010, there were fires that destroyed a bunch of the wheat crop. As a result, a bunch of farmers left the market. They went out of business. So, as you remember from micro, if the number of suppliers goes down, then here we go, supply curve shifts to the left. Now, at the price of $160, quantity supplied is here at 35 million. Quantity demanded is still over here at 60. That's a shortage. Quantity supplied is less than quantity demanded. Hence, we've got a problem. So what happens when there's a shortage in a market system? Price goes up. And it did. All the way up to B. So the new price is $247, and the new equilibrium quantity is 40 million metric tons of wheat. Now, there's two important things I want you to observe here. First order of business, this increase in price, this additional $87, it's over 50%. This increase in price led to additional supply being brought online, this amount, or more accurately, an extra 5 million metric tons of wheat. However, it didn't get all the way back to where we were at 60 million metric tons, which means there's going to have to be some rationing. So these users on this line segment between point Bravo and point Charlie, these users value their wheat below $247, and they're going to get rationed out of the market. Now, if you had bought your wheat down here at 160 and someone's offering you $247 for it, you're going to think long and hard about selling that. Why? Well, you know, maybe you reduce your, if you bake bread for a living and you're buying wheat for bread, maybe you reduce your load. The profit here, an instant 50+% profit may be enough to cover you, and you're going to think long and hard. But somebody's not eating their Wheaties because of this. Here we have a different example. Here's the quantity of Jackson Pollock's number 5, 1948. This is theoretically a rare painting. Never seen it. Probably should get a video of that, or a picture of that and put it in here. There's only one of them. And here's the price of the painting. Here's the demand curve. However, there's only one. Whenever you have a vertical supply curve of constrained supply, demand sets the price entirely. Now this graph is just like eBay. You put one up for sale, right here. Bid, 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 and the last person standing, there's your price. There you go. So sometimes supply doesn't react to changes in price because it's constrained. This does happen. Now, sometimes governments, sometimes businesses don't like using price to sort out who gets what. Generally, they do it in the name of fairness. However, whenever you tinker with price or short circuit price, a couple things are pretty obvious. Number one, if you do so, you get it's more difficult than you really would think at the beginning. And number two, you get some unintended consequences. More on number two in a minute. So if you ever travel to China and you're not a Chinese citizen, be sure to keep your passport and identity information with you at all times. When I was in China, whenever you go to China, the Chinese government restricts the exchange rate for US dollars or any other currency to the Chinese renminbi or the Chinese yuan. Renminbi is for the people's money. Of course, I said it in a horribly awful accent and probably mispronounced it a million ways from Sunday, but their currency. Remember, the exchange rate is the price of one currency in terms of another. So when the Chinese set the exchange rate, they're not allowing supply and demand to determine the price of their currency. They're determining it themselves. They're short-circuiting price. And they do it in the name of fairness for their people. Now, if you have your passport or identity information, you can go to a hotel, pretty much any bank, ATMs, etc. And as a Western citizen, you're allowed to exchange effectively unlimited amounts of currency. There are no constraints on you. You can do whatever you need for your trip. Chinese citizens, by contrast, do not have the right to exchange unlimited amounts of currency. So each morning, government sets the rate, gets printed in the papers, etc. Now, if you don't like the currency, I was told there was something you could do. You go out the door of the hotel I was staying at, and you got to cross the road. Now, time out right there. This was the first time I ever played Frogger for real in real life. Crossing the road. Oh man, you go forward, you step. There wasn't a crosswalk, none of this nonsense. Just 4 lanes going one direction. It's like crossing an interstate. And man, I'm convinced some of those cars were speeding up when they saw me crossing. Anyway, you cross the road. Then there's this perpendicular road. You go on that. You pass the school on the right, armed guard, and you pass the convenience store. I used to go to that convenience store every morning. There's a sweet old couple that ran it, and I used to buy my water. I buy bottled water every morning for while I was out doing the stuff I was doing in China at the time. So I would have like 3-4 liters of water in my bag because I didn't want to drink the normal tap water. Past the convenience store, then there's this alleyway on the right. You turn down the alleyway, and it was the third door on the left. And you had to do the secret knock. Money, 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 right? Then the door opens, and you'd see the Chinese version of Guido, right? He'll hook you up with a better rate for a little something, something, right? Now, the government minder, because I was part of a delegation, one of the first things they taught us when we got to China is how to, common ways to detect foreign currency. So you take out currency, and if we were in class, I would actually have the currency in front of you. Real, authentic Chinese yuan. And you snap it. Snap the end of it. Authentic Chinese currency has a distinctive sound. Most counterfeits do not have this sound. That's the easiest way to detect fake Chinese currency. I was in a different city. I was in Qingdao, and I was out one afternoon with a couple friends, and we were out in the park, and it was a hot, hot day. And I wanted something to drink, and there was a vendor selling Sprite. Referred to as mistake number 1. I did buy my Sprite, and it was thick like cough syrup. It was nasty. Anyway, I went up to this vendor, not knowing that the Sprite was what it was. I pointed to the Sprite, and then I made the symbol for cold, lingua franca, because I didn't speak enough Chinese to tell them what I really wanted. The last time I tried, I asked for sugar, and I mispronounced little white sugar, and it got mispronounced little white soup. So Mandarin and I don't get along real well as far as languages go. Anyhow, I made the lingua franca shivering cold. That he nodded, reached into the cooler, grabbed a cold Sprite. He pointed at the price. I took out my money, counted it, and paid the man. At which point he reached into his pocket, pulled out his wad of cash, and counted out change. I took the change and I snapped it, just like I was taught. So I had the money in my left hand, and I took my right hand and I snapped the edge of the currency. I looked at the currency, held my left hand out open with the money on it, looked at him and just shook my head no. He took the currency, put it in his right pocket, reached in his left top pocket, took out other money, and then counted me out the change. I snapped that, it was normal, and away we go. The dude was trying to peddle fake money. Counterfeiting is such a problem. A friend of mine runs a coffee shop in China, chain of them. And he has to actually train his employees how to spot fake money. It's such a pervasive problem in China that there is a separate currency police, literally. But Dr. Yoder, how do you know that they're the currency police? Well, when you see one of them, it has currency police written not only in Chinese characters, but also in English on their uniform, and there's a lot of them. For a country the size and with as many people as China, with the trying to enforce the exchange rate and deal with the currency issues. Why is there so much counterfeiting? Because of the exchange rate. There's loads of counterfeit currency all over the place, even counterfeit US dollars, all over the place there. There are more Chinese currency police than there are members of the United States Marine Corps. Bypassing the price rationing system. It's not like, oh, we'll just set the rate, publish it in the paper, and everything goes. More difficult. They had to hire a complete and massive army of currency police just to enforce their bypass of a price system for the currencies. So whenever you bypass, there's a couple ways of doing it. One is a price ceiling. Now, price ceilings are a maximum price you're allowed to charge for the good, usually set by the government. Price ceilings, two things about them. Number one, they're intended to keep things affordable for normal people, for you and me. However, for a price ceiling to be binding or effective, in order for it to have an economic impact, this maximum price has to be below the equilibrium price. Otherwise, whatever the market equilibrium is going to prevail. So a price ceiling, in order to be binding or effective, must be set below the equilibrium price. So let me give you an example. Here in the United States, and in many countries around the world, if you ever stay in a hotel, you'll see one of these on the back of the door. Sometimes it says, welcome to, and it's got the name of the state and a list of all the lodging laws that they have there. I took this recently when I was staying in a hotel. And usually whenever I stay in the hotel, I look at this thing, and then I see this bit, and I just blew up this bottom bit so you could see it more clearly. Maximum rate, $299. Now, at this point, I look at that card, $299 a night, and I go, what? And I turn around and look at the room, and I go, huh? Look back at the rate. What? Look back at the room. For this? Huh? What that is, this is the price ceiling. Many states have put anti-gouging laws. The idea goes something like this. In the time of an emergency, or something is going on, hotels are not allowed to charge whatever they want. They have to charge, quote unquote, their normal rates. Yeah, $299 a night is normal. If they raise their rates above that, it's illegal, and you're supposed to call the government and file a complaint. So think about Hurricane Katrina when it hit. For those of you who don't know, there was a major Category 5 hurricane that pretty well destroyed the city of Los Angeles. The levees broke in the city, the entire city flooded, loads of people had to evacuate, and so many people evacuated, all the hotels from New Orleans pretty much to Houston, including Baton Rouge, and then all the way up into Mississippi, they all were full. They were full up. It was so bad, there was no place to even put relief workers and search teams. They had to bring in cruise ships. FEMA actually rented out cruise ships in order to put a cruise ship so that there were places for people to go. That kind of idea. That's a price ceiling. Now, whenever the price ceiling is binding, whenever the price ceiling comes into effect, price no longer answers the question of who gets what. Something else has to answer that question. So I'm about to tell you a story. It's an old story from the 1970s about what happens in that instance. Now I'm going to adjust the prices to kind of a modern equivalent so you don't get caught up in it. In the 1970s, OPEC, which is a collection of countries that produce oil and export, in the 1970s, they were far more powerful than they are today. And they decided they did not like the United States, largely due to the Vietnam War at the time. Now, the Congress the Congress was as bright as ever. And so they passed a law. And it said, the maximum price in the United States that you can pay for a gallon of gasoline is $10 a gallon. Yeah, I know it says 57. Remember, I'm adjusting the prices. $10 a gallon. Now, have any of you paid $10 a gallon lately? I haven't. Current price is between $2.50 and $3.50. It seems to bounce around in there for me. Now, when the OPEC embargo hit, they refused to sell oil to the United States. When the oil gets to the United States, it goes through a refining process at a refinery. Chemicals are added, stuff gets diluted, and it gets changed into the gasoline that then goes to the pumps. No oil, no gasoline. Now, the Congress of the United States ran for re-election on this law. Congressperson talking to their constituents. You should vote for me because I know you need your car, you need your gasoline to get to work and to get your kids to school and to live your life, to get to the grocery store. I'm looking out for you. Yeah, it's $10 a gallon, and I know that's high, but I'm not going to let it. If there's an emergency, I'm not going to let those evil oil companies shake every last penny out of you. And those foreigners steal all of your money just because they don't like us. We're going to look out for you. And you need this gasoline. You need it to run your business. You shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg and get shut down out of your business just because these evil companies and these evil foreigners are trying to profit off of your backs. We got your back. We passed a law. Yeah, it's high, but maybe we can lower that down and tweak it. But we got you. Vote for me. And it worked. The majority of them got reelected. Yay. But as the embargo took hold, price of gasoline went up. From 3.5 to 5 to 7.50, and then it hit $10 a gallon. Now at this point, the law kicked in because you couldn't raise it above $10 a gallon. Price no longer answered the question, who got what? So you had to figure out how to answer that question. And this happened. These are the fuel lines for the 1970s. The way your life generally worked is if you lived with somebody, they would drop you off to work, and then they would go and immediately get into the fuel lines. This would take about 4 hours to get through, 4 to 6 hours. Now, these pumps here, there were quotas. You weren't allowed to pump and fill your tank. You could only buy a certain number of gallons each day. So you'd get your allotment of gasoline for the day, go pick up, they would go pick you up from work, and then tomorrow we get back together and do it again, right? Doesn't that look like a fun Friday night? Hey, let's all go. Instead of, how you used to drag, the old stories of drag racing down Main Street in small town America. It's like, no, let's all go get in the fuel lines. We'll have a great time. We'll party hardy until we can get some gas. I mean, seriously. Ugh. If price doesn't answer the question, quantity demanded, the number of people needing gasoline at the price exceeds quantity supplied. Here you go. So going back to the old prices, it's 57 cents. Quantity demanded down here is greater than the quantity supplied at the same price. Now, the equilibrium price is all the way up here. However, we never got up here because of the law. So this shortage has to be figured out one way or the other. There's only going to be this amount of gasoline for sale. So I want you to notice something. Let me turn on my pen here, and hopefully I can draw straight. And no, I'm totally inept. Imagine that's a straight line. I know, horrible. Imagine that's a straight line. This is the point of gasoline. Notice it's to the left of what the equilibrium would have been. If the Congress had just let the price go up, there would have been the supply response. There would have been more gasoline for sale for people. But because of the law, there was actually less gasoline, fewer gallons of gasoline available to the public. They're well-intentioned. Remember that statement earlier? Often distributes in ways you didn't intend. They're well-intentioned, oh, I'm going to keep it affordable, made sure that fewer people actually got what they needed. Herein is the problem of these type of regulations. So what was that? That's queuing. Everybody gets in line. But Dr. Yoder, come on, man. Come on, man. That's 1970s. That's 50 years ago. Who you kidding? We don't do that today. Really? Come on. What's this? Yeah, Black Friday. Actually, it's now Black Thursday, I guess. They open, non-COVID years during Thursday. What do they got? They got what? An iPad for sale for $100 or iPhones super cheap, like 5 of them. And so everybody gets in line. Doors open, everybody rushes. It's a mad scramble. And yeah, I like going, you know how at Walmart or at Target and these kind of places, they have the little cafeteria area where you can get something to eat and sit down. I like to go get occasionally some popcorn or something to drink and just sit and watch all the shoppers. It's like a live show of Jerry Springer. It's the worst of all humanity. Fighting, people trampled, an elbow here, a jab there, a right hook occasionally. Somebody turns around and ignores their basket. Somebody steals something out of their basket and then gets away with it. It's the worst of all humanity right there. At least I used to think that. There you go. Everybody's in the queue. So there's also this one, favorite customers. Favorite customers works like this. So I travel a lot, at least I used to, and this is from my hotel stay club, when you stay in the hotel chain. So if you're a member, you get these benefits, and then once you stay a certain amount, you get the silver tier and the gold tier. I actually had the diamond tier. Oh my goodness, this was nice. This was really nice. So the best feature was this thing, the 48-hour room guarantee. And it worked like this. You're trying to book into a hotel, but it's sold out. You can't get in. You take out your card, you call the special number in the back. Hello, hotel, blah, blah, blah. How can I help you? Hi, this is Dr. Yoder. My number is da. Oh, Dr. Yoder, so wonderful to hear from you. Realize I've never talked to this person a day in my life. So wonderful to hear from you again. What can we do for you? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to book a hotel, blah, 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 on these following dates, and I can't seem to make my reservation. Is there anything you can help me out? Oh, don't worry, Dr. Yoder. We'll get you taken care of. Let's see what's going on. Click, 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 click. Click, 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 click. Click, 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 click. I see what's going on. Don't worry, Dr. Yoder. We always have room for you. What kind of room would you like? Well, I'd like da-da-da-da with a view of this. I'd like this side of the hotel, overviewing the mountains, and then, okay, Dr. Yoder, click, 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 click. Very good. Dr. Yoder, we have you confirmed in your chosen room. Here's your rate per night. You're all confirmed and set to go. We look forward to seeing you on the date you said. Okay, thank you much. Click. Now, at this point, the hotel picks up the phone. Hello. Hi, this is hotel blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for so-and-so. Oh, yeah, that's me. What can I do for you? Unfortunately, I'm sorry to tell you this. Unfortunately, we see you're booked to stay at our hotel, but we ended up being overbooked. And we just want to let you know we're not going to be able to accommodate you on the dates that you had booked. We'd be glad to give you a super discounted rate on our sister property 50 miles away if that would work for you. Oh, no, that's not going to work? Okay. Well, sorry about that. We just want to let you know so you didn't show up and have an unpleasant thing when you got there. So hope we can take care of you sometime in the future. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Click. Right? So if you ever get one of those calls from the hotel that, if you ever get one of those calls that says you're getting kicked out, on behalf of the person who kicked you out, sorry, not sorry? So let's see. When was this fun? Super Bowl Sunday. Yep, that was rocking. New Year's Eve, Times Square. So you didn't have to be with the masses. You could just watch it from your, yeah, that was pretty good. Year 2000 fireworks display with the hotel room overlooking the Eiffel Tower in Paris. How about a couple years ago, the eclipse, the Oregon eclipse? Everything was sold out then? Yeah. So what is the hotel chain doing? They're saying, oh, we do loads of business with you. We can't really afford to piss you off. This person, we don't know them from anybody. If we lose them, okay, fine. But we, right, favorite customers. What else can you use? Well, there's ration coupons. Here's an example. This comes from Duke University. These are coupons from World War II. What happened is there wasn't enough gasoline and critical items for the war effort. So citizens were given these, and if you wanted to buy gasoline, you had to give them a coupon and some money. And this allowed a certain amount of gasoline to be sold to you for the war effort. Back in the Soviet era, in the Soviet Union, they had similar things. Now, the idea of the Soviet Union being a command economy, or at least mostly a command economy, was everybody worked according to their ability and everybody got according to their need. So let's say you wanted to buy bread. You'd get bread coupons. Now, everybody got according to their need usually meant number of people in your household. So you got coupons based upon the number of people in your household. You go to a baker. If they had bread, you'd give them a coupon and some money, and then they'd give you the bread. If you didn't have the coupon, no bread. Now, what if you really liked bread? Well, people used to exchange coupons. It's like, I don't really want the bread, but I want some meat here. I'll give you bread coupons. And they would kind of swap coupons. However, if you went to the baker and gave them too many coupons, you'd get in trouble. The baker could turn you in for a reward, and you would be sent for, I believe the Soviet phrase was re-education. You can use your imagination as to what re-education meant. So you ended up having to go to different bakers all the way around town and use one coupon here, one coupon there, so that nobody kind of caught you. But notice the system. Could you work harder in order to get more stuff? No, you needed coupons, ration coupons. Price wasn't sorting it out. It was done manually. So if working didn't get you more stuff, what did? Well, everybody got according to their need. So if you want more stuff, you need more need. And need was determined by the number of people in your family. So they got about making more need. Question. Was it really the intent of the Soviet planners to trigger a baby boom in the Soviet Union? I'd argue no. The infant baby didn't eat a whole lot of bread, but the infant baby got a bread coupon. And that's how the break coupon works. Now, whenever an alternative rationing system is used, almost inevitably a black market will form. Now, my students tend to be really upstanding citizens, right? And before Oregon partly legalized recreational marijuana, it's not fully legalized because there's federal laws, but before Oregon partly legalized recreational marijuana, nobody knew of any way to get recreational marijuana ahead of that, right? And nobody, none of you guys under the age of 21 knows anyone who buys alcoholic beverages and gives them to people under the age of 21 for a, quote, delivery fee, end quote, right? So clearly, the illegal sale of recreational marijuana before it was partially legalized by the state of Oregon, and the sale of alcoholic beverages to underage people, those examples will be totally lost on you. So I can't use those examples to explain what a black market is. So to help you out with this, just think of, in the story I told earlier about China, just think of the Chinese version of Guido, who was exchanging money for the illegally at a better rate. That's a black market. Totally illegal. If you get caught, usually you go to jail. Yeah. So black market. Happens all the time. For example, this is tickets at the Staples Center. There's a fixed number of tickets in the building. If the tickets are for sale at $50, quantity demanded at $50 for whatever this concert is exceeds quantity supplied. So what happens? All these tickets get gobbled up at $50, Ticketmaster, whatever, and then they come up on sale. You know, some places like the state of Colorado, in Denver, if you ever go to a Rockies game or a Broncos game, scalping tickets is illegal. But whenever you go to the stadiums, you know where the guys are standing up, holding up tickets? Yeah, they're scalping tickets. They're selling tickets. Now, they do that in Colorado, but they found a way around the scalping law. And what it is, assuming the tickets are genuine, which they're not always, what they do is they actually buy these tickets off of people who can't go. So if you have tickets for a concert that you can't attend, you go up to the scalpers, and maybe your tickets are $50 and they buy them for 10. And then that's what they do. So, but in general, you know, it's illegal. They have plainclothes police officers going around trying to see if somebody's going to scalp the tickets inappropriately. For me, I used to always just walk up, and whichever game I wanted to go to, whenever I went to a Rockies game, I just walk up and be like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, I need 2 tickets. Okay, how much is this? All right, here you go. And I just get right in. I guess I lived in a more innocent era. But there you go. Whenever quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, price tends to go up. If there's a law that holds it down, black market kicks in. Other rationing systems kick in. Now, the opposite of a price ceiling is a price floor. Price floor is a minimum wage below which you can't trade or you can't sell things. Now, price floors are intended to give sellers a fair price for their goods. For a price floor to be binding or effective, for it to have an economic impact, it's got to be above the equilibrium price. If the equilibrium price is higher than the price floor, that's what you pay. Now, they like minimum wage. I hate the minimum wage example, so I'll give you a better one. Now, in the New England states, now New England is a group of 6 states in the far top right of the United States. So if you're looking at the map, in the top right, there are 6 states. It's Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. those 6 states are really close together. And they each have their own state legislatures, their own governors, their own everything. So for years, the dairy farmers in those states, one state would give a subsidy for the dairy farmers, help them to lower the price, then they turn around and start selling to other states at so low price, putting in other states' dairy farmers upset. So it was causing a mess. So the federal government stepped in and said, you all stupid. And they passed a law called the New England Dairy Compact. Now, this law set a minimum price for milk in New England. So you know how when you go to the grocery store, the milk's like always in the back, right? So you walk by all the impulse buy aisles, you get to the back, and during this time in New England, you get all the way back to the dairy case where there's, you know, the pints, the quarts, the gallons, the half gallon, all these things. And then on the shelf, on the rack, there's the little price tag. Next to the price tag in New England would be this little sign, and it would say minimum price. This is the minimum price allowed by law. Translation: if you ever find milk cheaper somewhere else, call the feds, they're breaking the law. And the intent was to stop the dairy wars so that the dairy farmers in New England and the legislatures quit subsidizing it and everybody didn't get put out of business. That was the idea. So dairy farmers in New England got a price floor. Now, when there's a binding price floor where the price is above the equilibrium price, you automatically will get a surplus of the good. But here's the problem with milk. If you have a surplus of milk, what are you going to do with it? So when NAFTA was negotiated, the North American Free Trade Agreement, Canada said, yeah, you ain't doing that. We're not taking American milk. Why? It's because of the New England Dairy Compact. If you're a dairy farmer in New England and you've sold everything you can and you've got all this excess milk laying around, how much money would the Canadians have to give you for the milk for you to sell it to them, right? Like 1 penny above the shipping cost, because otherwise it goes bad and it's a waste anyway, so you may as well sell it to them for anything. Canadians said, no, we're not going to take your subsidized milk. It's going to put our dairy farmers out of business. So every year at around Christmas time, there was a news story like this. TV would show dairy farmers taking loads and loads of milk out to the ocean and dumping it into the ocean. And every single parent would cry. What happens when there's a binding price war? There's a surplus. And when there's a surplus, there you go. Okay. But we need to metric efficiency. So we've got a couple ways in economics to do this. The first is consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is the difference between the maximum amount a person is willing to pay and its current price. So let me give you an example. So as I'm recording this, I'm about a month out from Valentine's Day. Yes, you need to be thinking about Valentine's Day. I don't care if you're listening to this in the heart of summer. You need to be planning for Valentine's Day. But Dr. Yoder, I don't even have a significant other. Why should I be? Just plan for it, okay? If by some miracle you happen to get somebody, you'll be glad you planned some money and saved aside. So imagine Valentine's Day is coming up and you are really keen on this person and you have figured out the perfect gift for them. You know how when you give gifts like at Christmas or birthdays or whatnot, there's like a good gift or, oh yeah, they'll like this, haha. And then there's this one gift when you figure it out. It's like, oh my goodness, this totally knocks it out of the park. They're going to be just enthralled. Yeah, that kind of gift. However, this gift costs you $1,000. Holy tamales. Now let's be honest. I ain't paying no $1,000 for a gift for somebody if I'm not really all in, right? But you are. You're all in. Gift costs $1,000, but it's perfect. You've been saving for the entire year to buy this Valentine's Day present. Valentine's Day is coming up. You transfer your money from the savings into your checking. You're all set to go. You get to the store, you walk in, you get the item, you go to the checkout counter to the till, and they scan the item and you hear, beep. You guys know that sound? Beep. So you hear that sound, beep, and the display, you know how the display on the till says the name of the item and then the price? So you hear beep, and then the display shows the name of your item, it's the correct item. And then you see the magic word, sale. And the price displayed is $49.95. Now hit pause right there. You were willing to pay, you were prepared to pay $1,000. And you got it for $49.95. Now, at this exact second in my mind, I have several things going on. The first is there something wrong? Is there a new thing coming out? Did I mess this up somehow? Because let's be clear. If I just assume I messed it up somehow, I'm usually right. Did I mess this up somehow? You know, I look at the name, I look at that, no, that's actually the right one, right? The second emotion I have is, ooh, they must have made a mistake somewhere. I better buy this and get the hell out of here before they figure it out. But once those two things have kind of passed, the last thing, which is what sticks with me, is a party. I may look cool and collected, but I am having a freaking party in my head, right? I've been saving. I got $1,000 ready to buy this thing, and it only cost me $49.95. Oh yeah, right? You know, in my mind, I'm going shopping with the $950. I can now, over $950, I can now go and spend, and I'm kind of mentally shopping. What is consumer surplus? It's the size of the party going off in your head. The difference between what you're willing to pay and its price. So let's nerd this up, because after all, I'm a nerd and I got to nerd everything up. Here we go. We're selling hamburgers at $2.50. Here's our demand curve. Now, the first set of people, this is A right here, they value their hamburgers at $5 a burger. Man, that's George Foreman. If you don't know, George Foreman was a boxer. He was a good boxer, too. And man, he loved hamburgers. Ain't nobody value their burgers more than George Foreman. Not a thing. George Foreman loves his burgers so much, they put his name on the grill that makes the burgers. Seriously, look it up. It's called the George Foreman Grill. It's a thing. George Foreman values his burgers at $5. See that right here? $5. Only had to pay $2.50. Party! Next person comes down the road. They're right here. They value their burgers at $4.50. Not as much as George. Ain't nobody value their burgers more than George. They value their burgers at $4.50, but they only had to pay $2.50. Party! Smaller party, but still a party. And then C comes along. They value their burgers at $4. Only had to pay $2.50. Party! Again, smaller, We keep getting smaller each time. We keep doing this until we get all the way down here to E. Now at E, they value their burgers at $2.50. They pay $2.50, no party, but they got a fair meal at a fair price. Anything past this, they have to pay more than they value it. So after E, nobody's going to be buying. So if you add up all the party, which is this blue bar here, and you do it for every single one, this is millions of burgers. If you do it for every person all the way for all these millions of burgers, you get this triangle. Now, for those of you in need of geometric enhancement, please recall the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So we know the y-intercept here is above $5 because $5 is a day. So we'll say it's $5.50 for argument's sake. The base of the triangle is 7 minus 0, so that would be 7. The height up here would be $5.50 minus $2.50, so that's $3. So base times height is 3 times 7, or 21, divided by 2 is 10.5, and that's millions of hamburgers. So in this market, the consumer surplus is $10.5 million is the value in this market. Right there. That is the consumer surplus from this hamburger market, $10.5 million. For those of you with calculus, this is not required for your exam, but if you have calculus skills, straight lines do not occur in nature. How do you do it? You take the integral of the inverse demand function, evaluated from 0 to the equilibrium quantity. Then you subtract the price times the quantity, which is this rectangle here, and that will give you this area under the curve. So that's consumer surplus. Think of it as the hero in our story. Now, every hero has needs. Batman needed somebody. Batman had Robin. So we got our Batman. I am Batman. Consumer surplus. Here's Robin. Producer surplus. Now, producer surplus, the difference between the current market price and the cost of production of the firm. Okay, yippee, Dr. Yoder. Well, wait a minute, Dr. Yoder. Current market price. That's the revenue the firm gets for making the good. So the difference between revenue and cost has another name. It's a P word. It's not party, although it can lead to parties sometimes. It's profit. Producer surplus is a really fancy name. You're saying profit. So let's nerd this up. We're selling our burgers at $2.50. First set of burgers cost us 75 cents to make. There we go. Sell for $2.50. Cha-ching! Profit. Now for the next set of burgers, I had to bring on a second grill and hire somebody to run that because, you know, my employees were already going as fast as they could. I had to hire more. It cost me to add, you know, it cost me more per burger to add the second grill. As well. Those of you with micro remember, supply curves represent costs. I'm selling my burgers at $2.50. This set of burgers cost me $1 to make, but it's still a profit. Smaller than the first batch, but still a profit. Cha-ching! Then we get to see, now I got to expand my location, build out more seating. Selling at $2.50. It's costing me $1.50 now. All right. Still making money. Cha-ching! Keep doing it all the way up to E. Now at E, we go ahead and produce it. We don't make any profit on it. But, you know, customer stat, consumer loyalty, etc. After E, we don't produce it. Why don't we produce it? Well, the cost exceeds what we get for it. I've actually had this happen to me once. I was in Western Colorado, and they sell this ice cream cone that literally the ice cream is 2 feet tall on the cone. It was the monster cone. Literally, they stack up the ice cream. It's 2 feet tall. Anyway, they only sold a certain number that day just because it was so much, they were taking losses. And so they'd only sell a certain number that day. It was totally awesome. I just happened to be the one that they didn't sell to. It's like the guy in front of me got it and I didn't. It's like, oh, I went back the next day and got it. But yeah, sometimes marginal cost is just too high. The supply curve is too high. They won't offer it. So again, area of a triangle, 1/2 base times height. For those of you with calculus, you take price times quantity, which is the entire rectangle, minus the integral of your inverse supply curve from 0 to the quantity. And that will give you your producer surplus. So at market equilibrium, where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded, the total area of the consumer surplus in blue and the producer surplus in red, adding those two together, you're never going to get more surplus, total producer and consumer surplus together, than you will right there. Now, I can make consumer surplus bigger, but I'm going to lose something in the process. I can make producer surplus bigger, but I'm going to have to steal from the consumers, and I'm going to lose something in the process. But if you add them together, the total amount of efficiency in this market, you're never going to be better than you are here at equilibrium. Okay, so for our action adventure section of this lecture, we have Batman. Consumer surplus. We have the sidekick Robin, producer surplus. Now we're going to need what every action adventure movie needs, the villain, deadweight loss. Deadweight loss is the loss of producer and or, you should put or in here, consumer surplus from either underproduction or overproduction. So think back to question 1 that we had in chapter 2. What do you make? If you make too little of it, deadweight loss. If you make too much of it, deadweight loss. Total loss of producer and or consumer surplus. Sometimes it's one, sometimes you lose the other, oftentimes you lose both. Depends on the market itself. But this is from under or overproduction. Here's an example. Let's say the market was restricted to 4 million burgers and the price was still $2.50. This triangle, Alpha Bravo Charlie, is the deadweight loss because the benefits to society of producing it exceeds all the costs, including opportunity costs of producing it. Now, this top triangle here is lost consumer surplus. The bottom triangle is lost producer surplus. Now, if the price, let's say the producer, this was a monopoly, right? So the producer didn't have to worry about competition, so they went from 7 to 4. They could get away with charging $3.75 to the consumer. That would turn this rectangle here, I'm highlighting, what is that, pink? Reddish pink, I guess? They would add that to producer surplus. So one job in economics is you literally find the size of this rectangle, then you find the size of this triangle, and as long as the rectangle is bigger than the triangle, there's a possible case for antitrust, and you testify in a court of law as that the rectangle is bigger than the triangle. And they pay you loads of money to do that. Now, if it was a monopoly and this rectangle turned pink to producer surplus, consumer surplus would just be this small little triangle up here. But this is deadweight loss from underproduction. When it's overproduction, like over here, it's less clear who pays. The way you value efficiency is you add up consumer surplus and producer surplus here. But then you have to back out this bit where the costs exceed the benefits. That has to be taken away. Now, who could pay this? Well, consumers might pay this. Consumers might be forced to pay this price up at B, required by law to buy it. Think car insurance, even though they may not get the benefit for it. Producers might be paying it. They might be forced to produce it and take it at a loss, even though it is a loss for those units in some cases. Or the government might be subsidizing the production, right? Could be subsidizing the production and making a deadweight loss from overproduction. Not all subsidies generate deadweight losses, but you could. Deadweight losses come from over or underproduction. So what causes market failure? What causes the deadweight loss? Monopoly or imperfect competition can do it. Taxes and subsidies that aren't proper. I'll be honest with you guys, pretty much with a very few exceptions, taxes generate deadweight losses. Taxes generate deadweight losses. But you need taxes to make society function. You got to pay for the government to function, property rights, courts, etc. So there's an entire discipline of economics of how do you, of taxation and public economics, how do you tax in such a way that minimizes the deadweight losses? Those of you who had me for EC201, externalities can lead to deadweight losses. But realize, while not a market failure exactly, price floors and ceilings can do the same thing and generate a deadweight loss. For example, tariffs. These have been in the news recently. Tariffs are a tax on imports. So what happens? Well, us academics, we've been looking at what the effect of the recent tariffs were. So three researchers, Federal Reserve Bank of New York, this is the central bank. New York's a special Federal Reserve. You'll learn more about that later in the class. Princeton and Columbia Universities, these are Ivy League schools. NBER, National Bureau of Economic Research. These are the people who declare recessions. Recessions are not declared by the US government, they're declared by NBER. These three, back in March 2019, were looking at the effect of the taxes. Using standard economic methods, we find the full incidence of the tariff falls on domestic consumers. Translation. The tax, the tariff, is not paid by foreigners. All the money of the tax is paid by domestic consumers. With a deduction in US real income of $1.4 billion a month. That's your deadweight loss. $1.4 billion a month. So I'm going to grab my iPhone quickly. All right, let's unlock it. There we go. I'm going to grab my calculator. 1.4 billion a month times 12 months is $16.8 billion a month. What could you do with an extra $16.8 billion a year? What could you do with an extra $16.8 billion? The losses to the United States from the tariffs are $16.8 billion. Now, some of that is lost corporate profits, producer surplus. Some of that is lost consumer surplus, where people have to pay more for goods that they were buying. However, the foreign countries who retaliated against the United States, they had reduced real income as well. Now, I want you to notice something about this. This article is not saying whether we should or should not do it. There's no normative argument here. Maybe it makes sense to do this. Maybe it doesn't. All that's going on is positive economics. They're measuring the deadweight loss. But Dr. Yoder, what about the jobs that came back? Yeah, they got that. They took that into account. There's still a deadweight loss. but this is how economists measure deadweight loss. Where did this $1.4 billion a month come from? It came from the deadweight loss calculation I just showed you. Admittedly, what I showed you is a little simplistic, but that's what happened. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call, stop by office hours, want to get you sorted. Have a good day.